Okay, these are your notes for volcanoes. I'd like you to make sure that you follow the proper note taking form that I gave you in class. And I want you to put down all the key facts. It might help you to know in advance that we're going to be talking about three main types of volcanoes. I'd like those to be divided separately on your page with bullet notes underneath each of the volcanoes of important facts I give you about each of those volcanoes. Okay, so the first volcano that we're going to talk about are cinder cone volcanoes. These volcanoes are cone shaped. They are made mainly of pyroclastic materials. These volcanoes will erupt probably once every 20 years. They are found in the middle of continents where the hot spots are, and they're formed of cinder and ash and dust. These volcanoes often have very severe eruptions, and they're usually pretty well known. This is how it looks underneath the ground of a cinder volcano. So you have these things in here where the magma is down here, and they come up through a vent. This is usually going to be found where subduction zones are happening, where one of the plates is being pushed underneath another. And you will have this usually happening with an continent to continent subduction zone. So you have this vent, the magma is going up here, and what's happening is it's expanding with gas and pressure and steam and water that's building up until finally it explodes and erupts out with the magma flowing. This part up here is called the crater. But cinder cones are known specifically for having one main vent up the middle. So to recap what we said about cinder cones have very steep sloped sides. They are relative to other volcanoes, they're small, but they're very explosive. And they're made up of the pyroclastic materials. Okay? So now we have the second type of volcano we're going to be looking at, which is going to be called a shield volcano. And this is a picture of a shield volcano. A shield volcano is not very steep. It's actually quite flat. And it erupts, the eruptions of a shield volcano are very low and gentle eruptions. They're actually constantly erupting, and the layers of the cool lava that's coming out usually are creating new landforms. So this would be a little bit more of a violent eruption. Down here is a picture of the lava flowing slowly and creating this basalt, which is a new landform. These volcanoes can be found a lot in Hawaii. Mauna Loa is one of the most famous volcanoes that's creating that island. And it is a slow moving lava. Kilauea is another one in Hawaii. And it is extinct and actually hasn't erupted for 60,000 years, but the magma is still flowing. This is another picture of a volcano that erupted, but it's a very slow eruption and it's actually creating this new landform here. So to go over shield volcanoes again, the key points to know about shield volcanoes is that they're very broad, they don't have a very steep side, they're flat. They have quiet eruptions, and that they're made up of layers of hot basaltic lava that has cooled. And a great example of this is Hawaii and all the Hawaiian islands that have formed because of the volcano there. There's also one in Hawaii called Kilauea. That one's still erupting, and it has a central crater in it called a caldera, and the lava just flows out of this caldera, creating new landforms. All right, last we have a composite volcano, and these ones can be found usually in the middle of it, where the oceanic and the continents converge. They are volcanoes that are built out of alternating layers of cinder, lava, and ash. And they're modestly sized. An example of this could be seen in Mount Shasta. Another one of these are kind of the more well-known volcanoes. This is another one that erupted in 1980. This is Mount St. Helens. This is an example of a composite volcano. Composite volcanoes have a mound shape with sort of steep sides. They have both types of eruptions. You can't predict it. Sometimes they're very violent explosions, and sometimes it's a slow moving lava. They erupt usually from either 50 to even 100,000 years of dormancy. Some very famous composite volcanoes are Mount Vesuvius, Mount St. Helens, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Rainier. And these, especially with Mount St. Helens, it was a dormant volcano that violently erupted in 1980. And here's some pictures of what that eruption looked like. These ones are different because instead of having one straight main vent that goes up the middle, it actually has a vent and then two branches that go off on the side of it that produce these violent eruptions. These are some great pictures from Mount St. Helens. Then after Mount St. Helens erupted, there's a lot of devastation that happened. Lots of towns and cars were covered in ash. I remember when I was a kid, you could even buy Mount St. Helens ash that they were putting in little jars. And this is what it looks like inside of a composite volcano, where you have this magma chamber, but you also have these different layers inside of it. And this is the caldera I was talking about on the top. All right. So that's another part of the inside of a composite volcano and what it looks like. So to recap about a composite volcano, key points you need to know is that they have steep slope sides and that they're very tall. They're very explosive, but they also can have quiet eruptions, so they do both. And that the main thing about them is you need to know is that they're made up of alternating layers of lava and silica, which would be like cinder and ash. And Mount St. Helens is probably the best example of a composite volcano. Okay. All right. So those are the main things that you need to know for your lecture on volcanoes. Please add all of these facts to your notes, and we will go over them in class. I'd like you to make a subheading right now for volcanoes, and really quickly we're going to go over the areas of volcanic activity in the world. And so we're going to look at that, and we're going to talk about where volcanoes happen in accordance to the plates and learning about plate tectonics. So we learned that volcanoes most likely are going to be the cause of a subduction zone, meaning where the continent and the oceanic crust meet, or in some cases it's going to be where the oceanic and the oceanic crust meets in converging plates. The most famous place that has the most volcanic activity is known as the Ring of Fire. This is a subduction zone that's in the Pacific Ocean. Most of the volcanoes in the Ring of Fire are cinder cones and composite volcanoes. So this is a type of area where you're going to have very explosive eruptions. And seeing when these explosive eruptions happen, you're going to be seeing lots of islands forming and new mountain chains. A hotspot is going to be a place in the mantle, in the magma, where so much heat is raising through the convection currents that is actually coming through the lithosphere. And this is what causes a hotspot, but we still don't understand why they stay in the same location while these plates are moving over it. But the best example of a hotspot is Hawaii. And here is some pictures of Hawaii. Oops, sorry. And you can see that Hawaii is composed of a bunch of islands, an island chain, and all of these islands were formed by subduction zones and volcanic activity coming up from the magma. And here's another picture just of the chain of the Hawaiian Islands. Okay, that's going to end your notes for volcanoes for this week. Please submit your notes through a Google Doc. Have them organized. The key definitions and terms that you need to have are shield volcano, cinder cone, composite volcano. I'd also like you to figure out the terminology for pyroclastic material, and also make sure that you know, again, specifically what a subduction zone is. All right, good luck. See you in class on Tuesday.